Very warm welcome back here at Laguna Seca for the iRacing British Touring Car Championship round 12 here on BSR TV with me, Chris Cohen, and my co-commentator who's going to take you down the grid for this third race is Dan Blake.
Yes, hello Chris. The front row of the grid and the reward for taking the 10th position puts Steve Richardson on pole position. He'll be joined by Chris Shaw on the front row. The second row is John Richardson and Peter Van Gool. On the third row we have Sean Lay and Daniel Hunt. On the fourth row is David Grunell and the race 1 winner, that is the car of Richard Wild. And on that fifth row, Adam Terry and our race 2 winner Ellis Stevens. So a very, very close. This reverse grid race is going to be a thrilling race, and it's got some very good drivers further back. And don't forget, Simon Fields back in 11th.
And I've just completely been bowled over by the quality of the racing in the first two rounds we've seen here from Laguna Seca. What do you think round 3 holds in store from us with that reverse grid?
It's going to be interesting, to say the very least. I think with some of these cars, I think the top 4 have been the class of the field really this evening, as we were told. In the first 2 races, it's been the top 4, the same top 4, but it'll be whichever one of them can get through the traffic first. That's what it's going to be all about really, because they've got 6 drivers in front of them. So getting through those 6 cars is going to be easier said than done.
And of course, coming down into turn 1, is it wise to go for it straight into turn 1, or should you hold back in that 10th, 9th, 8th position and just wait your time out until you can get around those cars?
Interesting you say that. I don't know really. It depends on the drivers. Some drivers have very different mentalities. Some will have the mentality that they want to do it and they want to do it now, and they will try and force it through. And others maybe a bit more patient. But some, I think Richard Wild, he's not got nothing to lose really in terms of the championship. He's not as high up as the other 3. So if anyone's going to be a bit rash at the start, I think it's going to be Richard Wild out of those top 4.
Well, it should be very interesting to watch, and let's not forget some of those other drivers outside the top 4 as well could well be on for a win here, depending on how they do from the front of the grid. It's not necessarily all over for them in terms of a podium finish, as we just have a look at these drivers making their way onto the grid now. Another 10 laps here at Laguna Seca. It's all to play for at the top of the championship. Terry with some very good performances so far today will be looking to maximise his lead in the championship even further.
Yeah, he's had some good results so far. He's been very consistent, but this is a race where it can go wrong when you're starting a bit further back. But let's just see what happens, because our final and 3rd race of the evening is about to get underway.
Indeed. Steve Richardson then, eBay Motors, that black and yellow car on the front row of the grid. Next to him, the Yuasa Racing of Chris Shaw. It's all to play hot for here in Laguna Seca, as we're just waiting for the final cars to make their way onto the grid for this 10-lap race, which is sure to be a thriller. Keep your eye on that first corner as we go down there. The lights are on. The engines are about to go revving. And we're racing at Laguna Seca. Round 12 is underway.
Yeah, it's a good start, it looks like, from Steve Richardson. Although Chris Shaw, that Yuasa Racing car is going round the outside. You got one of the Airways cars, and Sean Lay is also in the mix. Down the inside is that Peter Van Gool, but the Yuasa Racing car's gone a bit wide, and how the fall from the first 2 races. There's a car been turned around. It's a Dynojet car been turned around between turns 2 and 3, so very unfortunate there. That's one car, and there's also another car going off on the outside, but at the front it's still Steve Richardson who leads, and he's pulled out a couple of car lengths to the car behind him, and that the car looks like John Richardson. It is John Richardson, I think. So it is Steve Richardson in the lead with John Richardson in 2nd place.
Yeah, and we saw just at the back of the grid there on the first lap, 4 cars came together, and some of them had to actually stop as one of them turned around and ended up blocking off all the others. I think they've all got going again now, luckily, so be interesting to see what happens to those. They were quite far down the grid anyway, so it shouldn't make too much of a difference. But do we know who that Dynojet was who had that spin on it between 2 and 3?
Well, Sean Lay's done well on this first lap. He's up into 3rd position. He's going to try and put John Richardson under pressure, so that Alison Lee car is up to the Airways Racing car. He's going to try and let down the inside, but thinks better of it. And and there's also one of the Pertec Racing cars in the top 5. And out of those drivers who started further back, David Grunnell, and in fact, David Grunnell's off. Sorry to interrupt, but David Grunnell's off at the edge of the corkscrew, so not a good start for him. He's finding himself, I think, out of the race.
And that's a disaster for Dave Grunhill. As we have a look at a replay of this now, he's coming out. He's got very wide on the exit to the corkscrew. Almost takes out one of the cars just on the inside there, and he's into the barrier. Turns himself around. Has to wait to get back on the track, and yeah, that's put him right back down at near the bottom of the field.
We got carnage in the first corner. Very sorry to interrupt. Peter Van Gool's gone off, but also behind him there was another car off in the middle of the track, and I think a couple of them may have hit him. That's probably about mid-pack, but at the front we got Steve Richardson in the lead, and he's pulled away quite a bit from John Richardson. We've got Chris Shaw in 3rd position, who's taken that off Sean Lay. Peter Van Gool was in 5th position, but of course he's not there anymore. It's Daniel Hunt. But Ellis Stevens is also there, and he's got Simon Field behind him as well. He said about Simon Field. And in front of him there's been a bit of contact there between Daniel Hunt and a car of Sean Lay. Sean Lay goes across the gravel, but Ellis Stevens has gone past both of them there. So Ellis Stevens gets a couple of positions there. He's gone past Daniel Hunt and Sean Lay. And Simon Field's also tried to get past them as well, but Simon Field has only got past the car of Sean Lay. He hasn't gone past Daniel Hunt, but as we said before, it's been a bit more fraught and it's a bit more contact in his final race of the meeting.
And I think that's always the temptation, isn't it, to grab the final few points, and with that reverse grid as well, it's very difficult to keep everything in order. You just want to get past that car in front of you, and maybe the next one as well, and that's when people start coming together. We didn't see the incident with Sean Lay. We're looking at Peter Van Gool going off on the first corner of the previous lap, unfortunately, but Sean is now down in 7th place, with Simon Field up to 5th as a result of that, and your current leader is the pole man, Steve Richardson, and John Richardson, the younger Richardson, is in 2nd place, so it's a Richardson 1-2 so far.
Yeah, Steve Richardson does not really have much hassle in this 3rd race. He's managed to take the lead, and he's pulled out a 2.3 second lead, but in 10th position we talk about the cars lower down in the order. We've got Sean Lay 7th, Nick McCarran's 8th, Adrian Gibson 9th, Graham Smith is in 10th position, Stephen Ridley 11th, and Peter Foster in 12th position.
And we're just watching that battle now. Daniel Hunt is just coming through there in 6th position at the moment, with Simon Field just up in front of him there, and Field looking to make a move on Stevens, coming up to the corkscrew now. He is not trying to go down the inside, but Stevens right on the back of Chris Shaw as well. John Richardson looking to be caught up by this group as well. We'll stay with this group for the moment, and Chris Shaw under real threat from Ellis Stevens, who's got Field right behind him.
Yeah, Stevens is in a bit of a precarious position. Does he attack or does he defend? He's going to try and get past Shaw, but he's got Simon Field snapping at his heels behind as well. But John Richardson had a very poor exit coming out that last corner, and that's allowed Chris Shaw to get closer to him as well. So the battle really from 2nd down to 5th or 6th place is quite close, but Steve Richardson has pulled out a gap. There's a car coming out of the pits as well, and the Pertec Racing guys, who's been compromised earlier in the race, but no move's been made by Simon Field. But Stevens right on the rear of Chris Shaw as they go down into turn number 3 now, but it's on lap number 4, but he's going to go down the inside Stevens. That's a good move. Shaw doesn't fight it, but Simon Field's going to try and follow him through. I think Simon Field is going to get past, he is, and now Chris Shaw is going down like a rock because Daniel Hunt's going to try and make a move, but will he be able to make that stick? Daniel Hunt is not quite got a stick, but Daniel Hunt weaves out to the left hand side. He's going to try and have the inside line as they go into the corner, and they're very close. There's 4 of them racing really close together there. Sean Lay in the thick of it again, and Sean Lay's been turned around there by Nick McCarran, and Sean Lay for the 2nd time in this race is involved in contact. He spins around across the track, but I don't think he's been collected, and Nick McCarran there, a bit naughty there, he's turned him round, and it'd be interesting to see if there's any repercussions for that.
Yeah, and we're just having a look now at that incident involving Lay and McCarran, and you've got to say there that that was all McCarran, wasn't it? He just got into the side of Sean Lay, and Sean Lay now down in 14th place as a result of that. Yeah, do you think Sean could have given a bit more room there?
Well, Well, he could. Oh, there's some more contact here. But you've seen Ellis Stephen clout the back of John Richardson going into the last corner, and that's allowed Simon Field to take second place. We're just discussing one incident, and another one happens. But Simon Field, I think, is going to be a big beneficiary here. They're coming down to the last corner. They think Ellis Stevens was expecting John Richardson to break where he did, and they gave him a bit of a clout round the back. He would have felt that one.
Oh, and another one there.
But Simon Field,
John Richardson has got...
Ellis Stevens.
Yeah, in the back of John Richardson again, and that's allowed Simon Field through on the outside, coming down through into turn one now. Richardson should just about have this, looking at the into the first corner, the Andretti hairpin. Behind them, Daniel Hunt is very, very close as well.
Yeah, Simon Field slowed down a bit there. There's more contact there between Stevens and Richardson. Stevens giving him a bit of a tap there, but there's a big group of them racing it out for second place onwards. Steve Richardson's going to be loving this though. Steve Richardson's going to have a chance to pull away because the cars behind him just seem to be wanting to get involved with each other.
Field on the inside then, and John Richardson is right behind him. Stevens is right behind him. He's already been trying to take the back bumper off John Richardson's car as we come into turn 6. Field then has a much more... Oh, and there's a slide from John Richardson as he gets a little bit out of shape coming out of turn 6, holds it well, and doesn't look to have suffered too much there, Dan.
No, John Richardson hasn't suffered too much. He's on the back of Simon Field, but Steve Richardson is going to probably have a 4 or 5 second lead, but Simon Field pulling away from John Richardson. It'd be interesting to see what he can do. We're on lap 6 of 10, so he's still got time, Simon Field. The gap is 4.7 seconds. It's Richardson in 3rd position. Ellis Stevens is 4th. We've got Daniel Hunt rounding out top 5 with Chris Shaw 6th. Nick McCarron 7th, and we saw McCarron earlier giving a bit of a tap to Sean Lay. Adrian Gibson's 8th. Graham Smith is 9th, and Paul Lee rounds out our top 10. So we've got some different faces in the top 10, which is what this reverse grid 3rd race does tend to bring.
We're just watching those cars go over the start-finish line now. Those positions are on your screen, so we have Richardson with a 4.5 second gap now over Simon Field. Although has that come down? Oh no, that's a back marker ahead of them, is it? And John Richardson is in 3rd from 2nd. Ellis Stevens is in 4th, like we said, and they're all starting to spread out a little bit now, Dan. Looks like they've had enough of that close quarters action. They're just settling down into the race, as perhaps they should be at this stage.
Steve Richardson, I think, has made a mistake because that is him in front of Simon Field. So somewhere on that lap, Steve Richardson has made a little mistake, and Simon Field will now be sensing victory in his sights. We know Simon Field is one of the better drivers in this championship. He was before this race in 5th position in the championship, but it's Steve Richardson leading with Simon Field in 2nd position. John Richardson currently holding that 3rd position, with Ellis Stevens not far behind him in 4th. But there's a move down the inside there for 5th position. Nick McCarron has managed to get past Daniel Hunt.
That's right, and Hunt is... Hunt's now in 5th position. No, he's in 6th position, I beg your pardon. McCarron 5th. So McCarron is on the charge, but they're side by side now as they come out of the final corner there, with Chris Shaw having dropped down to 7th, right behind those two. Let's stay with this little battle for a little bit, down to the first corner then. Daniel Hunt then against Nick McCarron. This side by side into the first corner, this could end in tears, and rubbing up against each other, trading a bit of paint. They get through it okay, but that's allowed Chris Shaw right onto the back of these guys, and Chris Shaw, who has lost a few places from 2nd on the grid, will be eager to get back in this.
Yeah, I don't know if you're a bit behind me, Chris, but for me, they're just coming up now and to turn up towards a corkscrew. I think you might be a little bit behind the action there.
Yeah, it looks to be the case. So we're back with the live action now, delayed by a couple of seconds there. Apologies for that. Chris Shaw through the corkscrew with Daniel Hunt in front and Nick McCarron just ahead of him. So we've got the 3 white and blue cars with a Yuasa Racing sandwich there, and they're not too far behind those guys in 3rd and 4th. Simon Field has pulled away a little bit in front of these guys.
He's on the attack.
He is, down the side then.
Simon Field's on the attack, he's around the outside. of Steve Richardson as they come down to the first corner. They're on the 8th lap of 10, and Simon Field is going to try and make it stick round the outside. He's going to try and break a bit later, but Richardson, he's forced him into a mistake. Richardson across the gravel, he's going to hit the tyre barrier, is he? Just about keeps out the barrier, but he's lost the lead. So Steve Richardson tried to fight it, but he's in vain, and as a result, he's probably going to drop down into 4th position because Ellis Stevens has gone past, and John Richardson as well. So Steve Richardson, in the space of a corner, has gone from 1st down to 4th.
And that was a nightmare for Steve Richardson. He was so desperate to hang on to that lead that he just outbraked himself there. Field, given him enough room, looking for the cutback, didn't need it in the end because Richardson almost put himself in the tyre barrier. We look at Richardson now from 4th position, showing 1st on your screen. It will update on the next lap, but that means that the younger Richardson has leapfrogged the older Richardson, as John Richardson now up into 3rd place with Stevens in 2nd. Coming up to the corkscrew now, they're almost side by side.
Yeah, John Richardson was trying to make a way past Ellis Stevens, and maybe a bit of revenge for earlier. We saw Stevens giving John Richardson's bumper quite a good going over as they went into the last corner, so maybe Richardson will be trying to repay the favour as they come to that part of the track in about 5 seconds time.
Well, I don't think there's going to be a straight panel on any part of Richardson and Stevens' car by the end of this race, but they're holding it together for now, and it looks like Richardson's just dropped back there a little bit. Stevens managing to pull away. Didn't look like he had a slowdown. Yeah,
I think he might have done coming out the corkscrew.
That would have been a shame because that was a good battle.
Again, but it was a very good battle. But Simon Field seems to be at the moment as if he's got 2.3 second lead against Ellis Stevens. Got 2 laps to go. It's John Richardson in 3rd with Steve Richardson 4th, and then McCarron is in 5th position with Chris Shaw 6th. But the battle between McCarron and the eBay car there, Steve Richardson, could be something to watch on these last couple of laps because McCarron is inching ever closer to the back of the eBay car.
Well, we're just looking a little bit further down the field now, down to 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. This is the battle for 9th place. Sean Lay obviously dropping a few places with a few incidents there earlier in the race, but Van Gool's still very much in it for a 9th place, and Tristan Bottas and Graham Smith are not far behind him either. In fact, Bottas might be looking to line up Van Gool for a move into the last stages of this lap. Remember, there's only 2 laps to go here, so if we're going to see a move from Tristan Bottas, we're going to have to see it pretty quickly, as he's right on the back now of Peter Van Gool. We'll watch them through the corkscrew here.
Yeah, Peter Van Gool seems to have pulled out a little bit on Tristan Bottas through the corkscrew. Now give him a bit of a sigh of relief there for Peter Van Gool, who very keen to speak to us in the commentary box, and I expect to be here to discuss the final points of his race after, and we'll be hoping he'll be telling us about a top 10 finish because Tristan Bottas will try to take that from him, but Sean Lay, recovering from the earlier incidents he's had, is down in 9th position. But we're going to the last lap now, and Simon Field has a 2.1 second lead over Ellis Stevens.
He does indeed. Coming over to Simon Field then on his last lap of this 10-lap race. He had a very disappointing first race, didn't he? Fought back very well to the points paying positions for the second race, and now looks to top it off with the best performance of his evening. A possible win without wanting to put the curse on him on this last lap. Can Stevens catch him? Only a few corners to go.
Battle for 3rd position's hotting up as well, because you've got John Richardson, Steve Richardson and Nick McCarron all in quite a small space, and Richardson has gone wide on the grass, so the Airways car's gone off, and that's going to allow the eBay one to go past, and also Nick McCarron's going to try and take advantage as well down the inside, and there's a lower touch there going into the course. You don't want that, and that's the car going off there. It's Nick McCarron, so Nick McCarron's going to lose a position. Chris Shaw's gone past him, so Nick McCarron's eagerness to try and gain some positions on the last lap has actually seen him go down one there.
He has. He's lost a position there as we just watch Simon Field now coming into the final corner. Stevens is right behind him. You would have liked to say if there was another lap in this race, this could have been Stevens' race as well. But those two drivers coming over the line in 1st and 2nd and take us down the field, Dan.
Steve Richardson's taken 3rd place from John Richardson, and in 5th position we have Chris Shaw. 6th position is Daniel Hunt, so Nick McCarron has lost another position there. Adrian Gibson is in 8th place, with recovering Sean Lay in 9th. Peter Van Gool did hold on to the top 10, he finishes in 10th, with Tristan Bodice in 11th position. Graham Smith in 12th, and our Lady Lacer, Laura Bond, is in 13th position. 14th is Stephen Hefford. In 15th place we have Neil Hind. 16th is Jonathan Rex, with Stephen Ridley coming across in 17th with Marcus Naris not far behind him in 18th, and Naris, with whom we had a bit of that problem in the pit lane. 19th position is Colin Steele. 20th is Stephen Sharp. 21st is Paul Bird. 22nd is Simon Topham, and 23rd position for Adam Terry. That sort of escaped our glances, but Adam Terry has not had the best of races in that final race. 23rd for him. 24th is Peter Foster. 25th is Richard Wild. 26th is Ignacio Pinella, so a very horrible race meeting for him. 27th is David Grunel. 28th is Paul Lee. 29th Malcolm Foster. 30th is Sam Goff, and 31st is Rob Ross, and that is the 31 cars who participated in this race.
Thanks, Dan, and that is very interesting because Adam Terry, Richard Wild and Ignacio Pinella were all in the 20s in that last race. So what happened there? Because we didn't see that on the cameras at all. I don't think we really got a grasp on that, but something must have happened to them during that race.
David Grenell also 27th, so 3 out of those 4 cars from the reverse grid down, and the highest one from that reverse grid, apart from the car of Ellis Stevens, is Adam Terry in 23rd. Then you got Richard Wild in 25th and David Grenell in 27th. So the very big winner there from that is Ellis Stevens.
Well, yeah, you've got to say, just coming onto that for a moment, Adam Terry, who performed so well in rounds 10 and 11 today, earlier this evening, has scored no points in the final race, and Ellis Stevens coming into this was 17 behind in the championship. So Stevens scoring a full 17 points here. We don't have the calculation for the final positions at the end of round 12, but that's got to be close between the top 2, right, Dan?
It's got to be very close indeed, and I believe we have drivers coming in for interview.
Simon Field, winner of round 12. That was redemption for the first 2 rounds, right, Simon?
I will take that. I'm very pleased. The first 2 were rotten, a lot down to my own poor driving, but that just fell in place. That one did.
And you probably weren't looking in your mirrors too much once you got in the lead of that race, but you might be pleased to know that your fellow championship contenders, Adam Terry and Ignacio Pinella, finished in the 20s in that race, but that was a tough battle with Ellis Stevens towards the end. Did you just feel like he was catching you?
Yeah, I wasn't pushing too hard. I was managing the gap, I'd like to think. He'll probably say different though.
So what did you change in that third race then? Was it a setup of the car that just enabled you to go that much faster?
No, I didn't particularly change anything on the car as such. It was just a different approach to the race. I perhaps raced in the first 2 races where I should have just sat back and let things play out, where I was putting myself in a position that was causing trouble. This time round, like I say, I mean, I wouldn't have been in second but for Ellis and John coming together, so them having their collision let me through to chase down Steve.
Well, you did extremely well in that race, but the next meet is going to be at Brands Hatch, and how do you sit with that track? Is that one of your favourites?
Oh, it's one of everybody's favourites. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't enjoy that place, but I think a lot of people would be glad to get away from Laguna because for whatever reason the car, it's not a massively fun pace to drive around, but the racing was good, so that's the main thing.
It was very good from where we were sitting, so it must have been even more fun to drive in that last race. Congratulations on your win, Simon, and the best of luck in the next round at Brands Hatch.
Thank you very much.
And we're also joined by Peter Van Gool, who got an impressive 10th in the last race. Over to Dan.
Peter, a top 10 finish. How was that race for you?
Well, it was pretty exciting because I was able to put in a tactic that I applied in the last race, and that's going wide into the first corner and then cutting in and trying to overtake someone.
So a top 10 finish there. What was the highlights of your race?
Well, the highlights of my race was actually driving in between Graham and Paul Lee, and they were trying to block me off, so I forced Paul into a mistake going into the last corner on lap 7, so that was one of my highlights.
Well, how would you say that your race meeting's gone? Would you say were you happy with your 3 results tonight?
I'm quite happy because our team Pertec is kind of known for taking each other out each race. So I'm pretty glad I finished all 3 of my races and 2 top 10 positions. So I'm pretty content.
So that's a very happy Peter Van Gool. Over back to you, Chris.
Thanks, Dan. And let's have a quick look down. I think we can have a quick word with Peter Foster, who was 26 in that last race. Pete, you there?
Hello, yeah.
26 in that last race. How do you feel that went? Do you think that was an improvement over the last 2?
Yeah, I enjoyed all 3 races. I made a mistake myself in that last race. Tried to cut a corner and hit the block on the lead up to the corkscrew and shut it completely.
Well, it's a very tough field out there. Drivers commentating on just how good the guys at the top are. Brands Hatch is next in the next meeting. Next 3 races. Is that a competitive track for you?
I do like Brands Hatch, yeah. I've not driven the key around there as yet, so a bit of practice, but I've driven the Lotus 79 around there and enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Brands Hatch.
And we were speaking in the commentary box a little bit earlier about the fact that just about anyone who has an iRacing membership is welcome to join this championship. We saw a few new faces today, some of which got on quite well. What would you say to drivers coming into the championship for the first time in their first race? What's the most important thing for them to kind of do to get ahead?
I think the most important thing is just be patient and don't try and win the race on the first couple of laps. There were a few incidents on the first lap in each race which could have been avoided, I think, if a bit of patience was shown. You've got to be in it to win it, I suppose.
You do indeed. Thanks very much, Peter. And we're joined now by Nick McCarran, and over to Dan for this one.
Nick, a good finish you in that race, finished in 7th position, but you also had a bit of a collision with Sean Lay. How did you see that one?
I've just been looking at that one. It's I think it was a bit of 50-50, to be honest. I mean, I did dive up the inside of him, but I kept it quite nice and tight to the corner, and he squeezed me tight, and obviously I was starting to slide out a little bit as well. So, and then we hit once, and then while trying to correct things, we hit again, and then it spun him round.
How do you feel that your race meeting's gone as a whole? You happy with it?
Well, I missed the grid in the second race, which was a bit of a shame. I was too busy chatting to somebody and realised that it was gridded and got there too late. But after starting at the back, I ended up in 13th, so I was quite pleased, really.
Next round of the championship, see the series go to Brands Hatch. What are you thinking about Brands Hatch? Is that a track you like?
Yeah, I love Brands Hatch.
So what are you hoping for? 3 wins?
Well, that would be nice, but no, I'm not of that calibre.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Nick.
Cheers.
And we've got a chance to speak to just about every driver in the field now. We don't have the time to speak to them all, unfortunately. One man I would like to bring into the conversation, if we can get hold of him, is Ignacio Pinella. Ignacio, have you got a moment for us? Doesn't look like we get to speak to Ignacio at the moment. But let's go over to Graham Smith. Graham, you there? Graham's not there either, so perhaps we'll leave it there, Dan. After 3 rounds at Laguna Seca, very impressive start.
Yeah, Temple, I'm just watching your live stream at the moment.
Oh, you're
You've got
watching
Graham
us
there,
live.
Chris.
We have got Graham. So a quick word with Graham Smith then for Welsh Motorsport. Graham, it was a midfield battle for you in those last 3 races, but how do you feel about your results from today? Oh, we got nothing from Graham, unfortunately. I think he's gone again, unfortunately. So let's look to wrap this one up then, Dan. 3 rounds from Laguna Seca were all very competitive, and the major winner, I'd say, in that was Ellis Stevens, who will have now closed up the gap to Adam Terry at the top of the championship.
Yeah, I think it's a very profitable meeting for Ellis Stevens, and he couldn't even find himself at the top of the championship. That eBay car looked very good in all three
Interesting.
races. He stayed out of trouble, and he really did. It proved you could keep out of trouble, and it was a very good day for him. I think Adam Terry been disappointed with that final race after being so high in the first two, but I don't think it would impact this championship too much because anything can happen, and Ellis could have a race like that as well. But I think the championship battle is wide open, and hopefully we'll see the return of Andreas Katz and Ignacio Pinella maybe back on form. But Simon Field with an impressive win in that last race proved that when the time's right, he can also get the result.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think going into the next round, it will be interesting just to see if Katz is back in the action. Dan, I think he might do very well in this next round. But the next rounds will take place next Thursday. That's into September, in fact, and same time next week. So remember, this championship open to anyone with an iRacing membership. If you fancy joining, look under the leagues in iRacing for BTCC, and over on the UK and I forums or the private hosted forums for the post details, where you can sign up, and maybe you could be at the top of the field, overtaking the likes of Simon Field and Ellis Stevens next time round. Any final thoughts, Dan?
I think Brands Hatch is going to be very good. It's the Indy circuit, so quite a small circuit. I think traffic will play more of a part there, but I'm really looking forward to Brands Hatch. I think you can see some good racing, and I think they'll be happy to go on a track that most of these drivers will be quite well aware of. I know the track probably a lot better than they know Laguna Seca, so I think we'll have some even better racing than we've seen today.
And remember, that is live on BSR TV next Thursday from Brands Hatch. You can watch it on Twitch TV live, or later recorded again on YouTube. And from me, Chris Cohen, and my co-commentator here, Dan Blake, thanks very much for watching.